Chapter 10, The Mysterious Bottle. Han Li slowly walked out of the Divine Hand Valley, following the path in the mountain, habitually, towards the red water peak that could be seen in a blur. He did not have anything important to do now, the reason why he ran to Zhang Tai's place on time every day for the past few days, just to see Zhang Tai's strange appearance when he was practicing under the waterfall, baring his teeth. This elephant armor kung fu is really not ordinary people can withstand, just the first layer to endure such great torture, to the next few layers, but also to train people to at least shed a few layers of skin. I guess Zhang Tai, now I'm afraid there are already some regrets, right? The dominance of this elephant armor technique is far beyond the imagination of these little kids. Han Li walked while thinking, and also carelessly and casually kicked the fallen leaves and branches on the ground with his feet. Wait until some more days, the two of them will together plead with Dr. Mo to let Zhang Tai practice other kung fu instead, so as not to suffer this living. Han Li thought this, feeling somewhat cheered up by the fact that he could find a way out of his friend's present suffering. Han Li looked up at the trees on both sides of the road. At this time of the year, it was already late autumn, all the branches of the trees were bare, the path was piled up with a thick layer of fallen leaves and dead branches, walking on it was soft and uncomfortable. At this time, from a mountain peak not far away, faintly came the sound of a few clashes of weapons, from time to time also tragically mixed with a few loud cheers. Hearing these sounds, Han Li looked at the mountain peak again. Just a little better mood has turned bad again. This is the 100 Forging Halls teaching brothers, in the new initiates to carry out weapons fighting training. Whenever Han Li saw the other students gathered together to train with real swords and guns, his heart felt a bit bad, and he also wanted to pick up a real sword or gun and play with it fiercely. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but after he was officially admitted to Dr. Mo's school, Dr. Mo strictly forbade him to touch these things, and forbade him to learn other martial arts from other instructors, saying that it would hinder his progress in practicing the mantra. Therefore, Han Li can only dry eyes, occasionally in private, to borrow a few blades from a few good fellow disciples, dance on a few back and forth, over the handle addiction. Really, what's so good about this set of skills that you practice? The actual fact is, you don't see any use for it even now. The other disciples who started together are getting more and more powerful and their martial arts skills are growing by the day, but they are not moving forward, and they don't see any changes at all. Even Zhang Tai, who has only been practicing elephant armor kung fu for 2 months, has become thick-skinned and more capable of taking a beating, and his strength is much greater than before. But if not by the Mo de Fu income under the door, he may not even pass the 2 months before the disciple test, let alone stay on the mountain, can send home so much money. If you can't learn anything else, don't learn it. Han Li was complaining in his stomach while consoling himself. Han Li took his gaze back from the distance, still muttering in his heart, and his spirit became more diffuse, looking at the sides of the path with a listless gaze, not even knowing what he was looking at. Suddenly, Han Li sucked in a breath of cold air, his expression became odd, followed by almost a mouth grin to the back of the ear. He reflexively squatted down and pressed his right thumb with both hands, then lay half on the grass in pain. This sudden sharp pain immediately knocked Han Li down, his face a little white, a heart-like pain from time to time from the right thumb. It seems as if he had accidentally kicked a very hard stone in a pile of leaves. Han Li bowed up and held his feet with both hands, subconsciously blowing heavily into his injured toe with his mouth through the cloth shoes he was wearing on his feet. On the other hand, he was secretly worried whether he would be seriously injured and whether his bunions would be bruised and swollen at once, thus affecting his daily walking. After a long day, Han Li was able to ease through the pain. He lifted his neck up and swept his eyes around the pile of leaves near his feet, trying to find the culprit who caused him to suffer this great crime. The leaves scattered around the ground are all the same monotonous color, yellow. One simply cannot find the target one is looking for from those messy piles of leaves. Han Li frowned and scratched the ground with his hands a few times, grabbed a thicker and longer branch to lean on, stood up on his heels and carefully, then reluctantly, as if with the branch in his hand, into the thick pile of leaves around a few vigorous raking. Huh! A fist-sized object was picked out by the branch. Han Li carefully examined the culprit. The cause of his own glorious injuries is a round bottle-shaped object with a slender neck. The bottle's surface is covered with mud, completely turned into an earthy gray, cannot see a bit of the original color. Originally Han Li thought it was a small porcelain bottle, but in his hands but found that the weight is not right, heavy, very heavy. It is made of metal, right? No wonder this thing is not big, but hit his foot will be so painful. But the bottle made of metal is rarely seen. Han Li is now interested in this small bottle, forgetting the pain in his foot for a moment. Rubbing the dirt on the neck of the bottle with his hands, the original color of the bottle came out, green and very nice. There are some exquisite, dark green leaf-like patterns on the surface of the bottle. The top has a small cap tightly sealed the mouth of the bottle. There is nothing inside, is there? I put my hand to my ear and shook the bottle gently, but I couldn't feel anything shaking inside. I put my hand on the cap and twisted it hard, but it didn't move. Han Li became more curious and was about to make the next move when suddenly there was a sharp pain from his foot. Bad. How did he forget that his foot still carries the adverse consequences of close contact with this object? Oh, negative this injury. It seems to be unable to go to Zhangtai, or first back to the residence, to go on some wound medicine, and then ponder this accidentally obtained a small bottle. Thinking of this, Han Li, in order to prevent being seen by others, and do not mind this object dirty, the bottle into the arms, turned his head limping back into the arms, turned his